Welcome to Medically Speaking. My guest today is Ashlee Lang, the Manager of Clinical Studies for Kaleida Health. Ashlee, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
If you can, we're going to talk a little bit today about Great Lakes Cancer Care, the collaborative that has come together with Kaleida Health and a number of other hospital and clinical providers, but in particular, your role within Great Lakes Cancer Care. So let's start there. You're involved with clinical studies and research. Why is that important for an initiative like this in oncology?
Sure. So I am the manager of clinical studies for all of Kaleida Health, like you mentioned, and have been specifically focusing on growing our oncology clinical research program for about the last 2 years. And the reason why this is so important and critically important to our oncology patients is because a lot of the newest treatments and the newest drug options are only available through clinical trials. So for us to be able to provide the very best care to our oncology patients, we really need to be involved in clinical trials.
So, for our viewers, maybe you could just refresh our memories as to who's involved with the Great Lakes Cancer Care Collaborative beside Kaleida Health.
Sure. So we have great partnerships throughout the city. Our biggest partner is the University at Buffalo. They provide a lot of our academic and administrative functions for research. We also work with Erie County Medical Center, or ECMC. We work with Great Lakes Medical Imaging, of course, Kaleida Health, the Kaleida Health laboratories and pharmacies. We work with Winsong, Western New York Cancer Care, just to name a few.
So, those providers, those partners, how do you come together as a team to create that clinical program, that research, those clinical trials? How do they come together to help you with recruitment, or what kind of roles do they play?
So that's what's really great about our collaborative is that each individual member brings what they do best. Great Lakes Medical Imaging brings their imaging expertise. The Kaleida Laboratories brings their laboratory expertise. The university brings their strong academic background. So we're really able to lean on each of our partners, and they are able to offer us their best so we can offer our best to our patients.
So, I know it's a relatively new entity or initiative. Talk to us a little bit about the specialties for the clinical trials. What's available currently?
Yeah, so we're a growing program, like you said, and we treat all types of oncology patients. Right now we have clinical trials available for our patients with esophageal carcinoma, for pancreatic cancer. We have myelodysplastic syndrome. We also have some clinical trials that will be opening soon in some of your more frequent cancer diagnoses, such as prostate cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer. So we're really trying to make sure that regardless of your diagnosis, we have a trial option that you can use.
Why are certain specialties like prostate cancer more involved in clinical trials, or why are those specialties, why is it easier to be involved in clinical trials?
Sure. So that just has to do with the number of people around the country and around the world that are diagnosed with that cancer each year. So things like prostate cancer and breast cancer, those are very common, unfortunately. So you tend to see a lot more treatment options and clinical trials for the more highly diagnosed cancers. When you get into some of the more rare or less frequently diagnosed cancers, like esophageal carcinoma or some of the hematological cancers or brain cancers, you often see less options available. But that's why it's also very important to us that we find good trials in those spaces to be able to offer those patients an option.
For the patients or patient families, how do they learn more about the trials that are offered?
Your oncologist is going to be your best advocate. They're going to know your case, your diagnosis the best, and what you may be eligible for. But if you're curious to see what we have available before talking to your physician, there's a couple different things you can do. The University of Buffalo has a great website called Participate in Research that you can go, and that shows you not only the oncology trials, but every clinical trial that we have available with our partners at the university. You can also check out the Great Lakes Cancer Care website. We have a clinical trials tab there that you can see what we have open and running. And if you ever find yourself in our clinic out at Spindrift Drive, you'll also see an informational bulletin board there that has information about what clinical trials we have available.
So, you may have patients or family members watching this and asking the question, Can anybody participate in those types of trials or go through those types of online portals to do that? Is there some sort of requirement? Is there criteria? How does someone get involved in that?
Every clinical trial has a very defined set of eligibility criteria that a patient has to meet in order to be considered for that trial. And that conversation is really best had with your provider.
The million dollar question, what about cost? Is there any cost to the patient?
No, there should never be any cost to the patient for participating in a clinical trial.
That's great to hear. Tell us about timing for the results that may be coming down the line. How long before you have those? Is there industry data that patients or their families can read into before they make any decisions?
So before a patient is enrolled in a clinical trial, they go through a consent process where they'll be given information about the trial, about any new treatments or drugs that are involved in that trial, and also information about previous phases of the research. So if studies were done in the past on that drug or that treatment, there'll be information about how those studies went, maybe what to expect, that sort of information. On the back end, after a study is completed, you're a patient on that study, you're often able to find out the results. It can be quite a long time with oncology clinical trials. These trials can last for years, sometimes 5, sometimes 10 years, because we follow patients quite a long time to see what the impact of these new treatments have on the progression of their disease. So it can be quite a long time to find out the results of your current trial, but you should definitely have information about previous trials that can help you make a decision as to whether you want to participate.
Sure. And I think goes without saying that obviously oncology is a very difficult topic. It's a very difficult diagnosis. But, on the bright side, thanks to folks like yourself and the clinical trials, Great Lakes Cancer Care, the collaborative that's coming together, more therapies are coming down the line, more treatments coming down the line. So our thanks to you for all that work, and our thanks to you for joining us today for Medically Speaking.
Thank you.